Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. It is Poetry Thursday, so I wanted to talk about some poetry that has interested me as of late. I want to talk about one of the better poems that I've found on this channel. Every now and then there's something that truly, really speaks to my inner being, although saying that might make me look bad. Also, I am cataloging LGBTQA poets on this channel through the end of May into June and into the end of July, as it's always important to, talk about the LGBT community outside of just June as well. So join me as I catalog that. And today I wanted to talk about a poem that is about escaping the familiar. I am referring to The City by C.P. Cavafy. For those who don't know, C.P. Cavafy, or Konstantinos Cavafy, was a Greek poet who lived between the 1860s and the mid-1900s. He was born in Egypt, but he grew up in Greece, and he was known for writing poetry about homosexual relationships, about the ego, about the psyche and stuff like that, and writing about certain historical figures, writing nationalistic poetry at times. What's interesting is that a lot of his contemporaries called him a pretty great poet. Even E.M. Forster, who I talked about on this channel before, even this very week as I talk about Truman Capote, he praised Cavafy's poems, just noting that he was a pretty high quality poet, high quality writer. But yeah, unfortunately, even though he was praised during his time, Cavafy did not receive, a lot of people didn't really discover his poetry until after he had died. And a lot of that is because it wasn't highly publicized, because of course he wrote about homosexual themes and whatnot, which, at the time probably wasn't, well thought of or something like that. Or even, it was punished in the case of like Oscar Wilde for being called obscenity. As a result, a lot of people didn't discover his work until well after he had died. But here I am, continuing to praise his work for generations to come, and also cataloging another LGBT poet, which I'm always excited to do. So without further ado, let's talk about this poem, do a little bit of analysis. So I'll read it, do that analysis, and we will move on from there. The City. You said, I'll go to another country, go to another shore. Find another city better than this one. Whatever I try to do is fated to turn out wrong, and my heart lies buried like something dead. How long can I let my mind molder in this place? Wherever I turn, wherever I look, I see the black ruins of my life here, where I've spent so many years, wasted them, destroyed them totally.
You won't find a new country, won't find another shore. This city will always pursue you. You will walk the same streets, grow old in the same neighborhoods, turn gray in these same houses. You'll always end up in this city. Don't hope for things elsewhere. There's no ship for you. There's no road. Now that you wasted your life here in this small corner, you've destroyed it everywhere in the world.
And so that was The City by C.P. Cavafy, a fairly interesting poem. In terms of analysis, there is quite a bit we're talking about in this poem. In terms of narrative, I think it's fairly easy to see what is going on in this poem. The narrator is pointing out something that an acquaintance said, where they're like, hey, I want to leave this country, I want to go to some other city. I can't just be stuck in my ways. I have to find something greater than this. A very human emotion, one that I felt, one that I'm sure you've all felt, especially if you're over the age of 18 and you've been in one place for very long. You probably want to escape that place and see something new, although that's not the case for everyone necessarily. But in the second verse, the narrator drops a big truth bomb on this person and says, you won't find another country. You won't find anything else. You'll be stuck in this city forever. You have wasted your life away being in this city, and nowhere else can you achieve anything but the city. And assuming you even achieved anything at all, like you're not destined for greatness here or there or anywhere really. And so like it's very clear to see the narrator is saying, like, you might hope for greater things, but you're not going to get those greater things. And I'm like, as I was reading this the first time, I was like, damn, man, you don't have to go that hard. Like, this is just chipping away at someone's insecurities and just utterly like crushing them, like, or attempting to crush them. Whether or not the other person necessarily feels that way, or is going to respond to your statements is something else entirely. But it does get at a sort of bitterness that maybe you might feel if you're trapped in the same place and you realize that no, none of you are ever going to escape. Or maybe you're just noting that this person has been complaining for so long and wanting better things, but they never really try to escape them. Like, you might be wanting a better place in the world, but you've been shaped by your life in this small city. Even if you tried to go someplace else, like that world, like that worldview that you have has shaped you for the worse, and like you're not going to be able to shake that worldview, and so your mind is always going to be plagued by the city that you grew up in. Maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like maybe if you grew up in a small city, you're always going to be comparing every other city to that city, and it's like you can't really escape it. Specifically, he says, now that you wasted your life here in this small corner, you've destroyed it everywhere in the world. Another very hard line right there, but just noting that, like, you wasted your life here, you spent your time here, and so now everything else, every other place in the world is going to be, guided by that decision to stay there. So even if it doesn't just weigh on you in some way, maybe Cavafy is saying that those traumas, those emotions, that stuff you dealt with is going to follow you around no matter what. You have a chip on your shoulder or something like that. So he could be saying a lot of different things about why it's necessarily weighing on you. But it's clear, like he's saying that you're not going to be having a good time anywhere else in the world. But what's also interesting about this poem is how it's divided. The first verse says, "You said, I'll go to another country, go to another shore." And then the second verse is, "You won't find a new country," kind of a response to the first verse. But picking at each sort of insecurity or worry that the narrator expressed in the first verse. They say, "Wherever I turn, wherever I look, I see the black ruins of my life here." And they say in the second verse, "There's no ship for you, there's no road, now that you wasted your life here in this small corner." Kind of getting at like everything that the narrator is feeling in the second verse. So I do like how that's a response. It's certainly one that I've never really seen in another poem before. So it was very, very welcome, very interesting here. And then the last thing worth noting is, the very human emotion at the center of this poem. I grew up in small town Iowa. I was very lucky to, get out of that small town, because I even like, at very young, I still felt like if I stay here, I'm never going to grow. I'm never going to change. This conservative small town is going to ruin my entire life and make me feel like I'm dying. And luckily I was very able to escape, but not a lot of people are. Like, a lot of people are stuck there. And I feel like what Cavafy is getting at is the longer you stay there, the longer you allow this small town to envelop you and become a part of who you are, the harder it is to get out anywhere, because that's all you know. And maybe if you think about, leaving, you might be too scared at one point. I'm very fortunate in that I've been able to travel and see more of the world, even though it's just the United States at this point, but I have been able to see more. And it's felt great. It's really helped me, get that experience that I want. And so I really connected with this poem and getting at those fears that I felt so long ago. And, the very human fears that people feel now, even though this poem was written maybe in the late 1800s, early 1900s, I feel like it's still a very real emotion that travels and people can sort of lock onto in 2023, the time that I'm talking about this poem. Anyway, those are my thoughts on The City by C.P. Cavafy. A pretty solid poem. Again, one of the better ones that I've cataloged on this channel. Always love to find one of those killer, strong emotion, like hold or no prisoners, take no prisoners type of poem that I feel like I've been seeing more and more as of late, as I find the niche of poems that I really love. I definitely recommend that you go read it. Look in the description, you'll see a link to it. Let's have a discussion about this poem in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this poem or this author if they don't already know. And don't forget to join the Discord if you want to have more conversations about poetry and books and whatnot. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and failing to escape the small town you're locked in travels. Farewell.